Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Claire and this is Claire's Neverland of Books. Today I'm bringing you my November wrap up. Let's start off with some stats for the month of November. I read 32 books with a total page count of 6,140 pages. It was a big reading month, but with shorter books. Because when I get into November and December, I start reading a lot of manga and a lot of Christmas novellas. We're going to rapid fire through this because talking about 32 books in depth is way too much. So going off of those stats, for format, I read 8 audiobooks, 9 ebooks, 13 mangas or manhwas, and 2 physical books. I read primarily romance with 25 romance, and then 4 romantasy, 1 paranormal, 1 sci-fi, and 1 speculative fiction. For my ratings, I had 1 2-star, 1 2.5, 1 3-star, 4 3.5 stars, 21 4 stars, 1 4.5, and 3 5 stars, giving us an average rating of 3.9 stars. So starting off the month, I read volumes 1 through 3 of We Can't Just Do Plain Love. This follows 2 office coworkers that find that they don't like vanilla types of relationships. They like to have a little bit more fun, if you know what I mean. So it's about them kind of testing those branches and getting to know each other and sleeping together. All 3 of these manga were 4-star reads for me. Next, I picked up A Beast's Descent into Love. This was a one-shot manga about a slave, technically. They're like half human, half demigod, and they're sold off to the highest bidder, essentially. And our love interest steals him from the market and then proceeds to fall in love with him and help him escape this world. This was cute. It was just a quick, fun one. Nothing crazy insane about it. This one was a 3.5 star. Next, I picked up another manga one-shot called A Beast's Love is Like the Moon, and this follows a guy who goes to his family or someone in his family's house to clean up this house and live there for a little while. And when he's doing so, he gets lost in the woods and finds a shrine to a god, and in comes the other love interest, and he becomes obsessed with our main character and eventually falls in love. They both do, and they live their life in this house together. It's just a cute slice of life story, very quick. Obviously it's just a one-shot, but definitely enjoyed this one. This was a 4-star read for me. Next, I picked up an Omegaverse manga, and that's How My Daddies Became Mates Volume 1. This follows two young men who are in their later school years, that one is an alpha, one's an omega, and they end up fighting each other a lot in school, and in doing so falling in love. It's kind of like How I Met Your Mother, where you're getting the perspective of the kid telling this story. This one was also 4 stars for me. Next, a couple other 4 stars for me were After We Gazed at the Starry Skies Volumes 1 and 2. This follows a photographer and another guy that idolizes this photographer who is in a wheelchair. And it's kind of their story about working together on a project, and then also the character that is disabled coming to terms with people will love them for who they are and not find them a burden in any way by being disabled. And this was just a really cute love story. I'm excited to continue it if more volumes come out. Next, I picked up wrong season, but I picked up a Halloween novella called Trick My Treats, and this story was a quick, fun time read. I gave it 3 stars. It was just fun. I'm interested to see what happens after. So it follows our character Blue, who is going to work as a dog sitter for this big shot guy for the weekend of Halloween while him and his wife go off on a yacht vacation or something. So she's dog sitting, and 3 men come knocking on her door at the end of the night and hold her hostage. They are running from the police, and the police are like canvassing the neighborhood, and so they run into her house and like stay there, and it turns into more very quickly. This was fun, a little more like darker tones, but not super dark, but I would just check the triggers if you're interested in looking at this one up. Next, I picked up Live Suit by James S.A. Corey. This is a novella in their new series, The Captive's War. And this follows some characters. I'm sure it'll play into the story later because that's how James S.A. Corey tend to write. They'll write main story books with like little novellas here and there that will play into the story as it continues. So I am excited to see how this one grows. This was a 4-star read for me, which matches book 1 in this series. That was also a 4-star read that I read earlier this year. I had a fun time. Definitely enjoyed this one. Next, I read another couple manga. I read Can't Refuse S volumes 2 and 3. This follows a girl whose family is in extreme debt, and for her to pay it off, she needs to try to become essentially like a call girl or like someone's like personal maid, you could say. So she approaches a rich guy, and his butler is overseeing the relationship. But she is like a virgin character that doesn't have any experience in anything like this, so the butler takes it upon himself to train her in preparation to please the master. But I'm not 100% sold that he's not the master. So I'm very intrigued to continue this and see how it goes. I have volume 4 I meant to read this month. I just didn't get to it. So I am excited to see where these go. These were both also 4-star reads for me. Next, I had a bit of a disappointment, and I'm really sad about it, but I am gonna continue. But I had a 2.5-star read, and that was Blood Oath by Morgan B. Lee. I don't know what it was about this. I think it was just very surface level. There was no growth or like true character development. This follows a girl who ends up with like powers and has to go to a university, but she comes into it late in the school year, which means like she manifested her powers all of a sudden, which means she's a specific type of magic wielder that people look down upon. So she ends up at this school, and like within a month they have this like ceremony where people get put into quints. So it's basically like you have like a keeper who's like the head person or the person it's centered around, and then you have 4 other people that will end up most likely having like relationships with that quint. So it is a reverse harem. So our main character ends up in a quint with like the 4 heirs of each like kingdom, and she's like rejecting them. She wants nothing to do with it, and they are just like head over heels for her and like trying to get her to agree to it. I don't know what it was that I didn't like. I think that there wasn't enough like fighting about her rejecting them. Like they just were like, yeah, we're not accepting that, you're gonna be ours, but they don't like really like argue back. They just like follow her around like lost puppies. I didn't absolutely hate it, but I didn't love it. But I will be trying book 2 eventually. Just probably on KU. Next, I read all 5 books in the Under the Mistletoe like Audible Plus series. I'll put the covers up here. We had from Allie Hazelwood, Cruel Winter with You. From Tessa Bailey, Merry Ever After. Olivia Dade wrote All by My Elf. And then Alexandria Belfleur wrote Merriment and Mayhem. And then Alexis Daria was Only Santa's in the Building. Now, I had a really fun time with this. I listened to it in a single day at work because I listen at 3 times speed. So all of these were like 30 minutes a piece for me. I had a really fun time with them. Olivia Dade's was my least favorite. I was so disappointed with that one because I love Olivia Dade. But I think I gave that one like a 3.5 star. And the rest were 4 to 5 stars for me. Allie Hazelwood's was a 5 star. Absolutely adored it. Merriment and Mayhem was the other one that like blew me out of the water. That was a 4.5 for me. And then Only Santa's in the Building also was a strong 4-star for me. I had so much fun with those, and I wasn't expecting it. I actually read them in backwards order, so I read the 5th one first. Not that it matters, but because I was expecting to like Allie Hazelwood's and Tessa Bailey's the most, I wanted to read them last. But I started out with 2 bangers, and I absolutely loved them. I highly recommend this if you want some cute Christmas romances to get you through the month. Next, we have The New Recruit Volume 1. This was a really fun manhwa that I had such a good time with. I gave this one 4 stars. This follows a guy that like spent his 20s following his crush through college and grad school to only end up single and in a spot where he had no idea what he wanted to do with his life. So he ends up interning at this, at a business where the boss is like super hard to work with. Most of the interns quit because he's so hard to work with, but he really hits it off with the boss, and it ends up being their romance. I love workplace romance, especially in BL. They're so much fun, but I did have a really good time with this one. I can't wait for volume 2. Next, I had a reread, and I reread this every Christmas, and I reread it normally like one more time throughout the year, and that's Gifting Me to His Best Friend by Katie Robert. This is an MMF romance that I absolutely adore with my whole heart. This follows Emma and Grayson, who are a married couple, and they go on vacation every year with Grayson's best friend Derek. Well, this year they end up getting snowed in, and Emma and Grayson tend to be pretty adventurous. And one of the things they both always wanted is for Emma to be with another guy while Grayson watches. And Grayson has always felt that she's never safe with just a random guy, so they've never done this. But when this opportunity arises that Emma is attracted to Derek, Derek is definitely attracted to Emma, Grayson brings it up to Derek, and they have a fun snowed in time at this cabin that they're renting for the holiday. But it turns out that there's more to Derek and Grayson's relationship than we knew, and that they might also have feelings for each other. But it turns into them wanting him for forever, and Derek not sure how to feel about that. I mean, this is a short little novella. It's like 110 pages or something, but I absolutely adore it, and I reread it all the time. I think I just reread it in September, but I had to reread it in time for Christmas. So, highly recommend this one. Next, we have another reread that I read that is a 4-star read for me, and that is Tangled in Tinsel by Trilina Pucci. This is a Why Choose snowed in holiday romance as well. It follows a woman, I can't remember her name right now, that ends up snowed in with her bosses. Like, she's like an interior decorator, and she gets snowed in when she's trying to set up for their like work Christmas party, but they have to cancel it because of the snow on the ground, and she ends up in their house for like a weekend while they wait for the snow to clear, and it turns into them all sharing her, but then realizing that afterwards maybe they want to keep her. This is a good fun time read for me. It's very funny. Trilina is so hilarious. I do highly recommend this if you're looking for a fun, humorous Christmas White Shoes. Next, we have The Big Apple Volume 1. This follows a guy who is a sniper for a like secret service agency called the Secret Intelligence Agency that performs jobs to get rid of people. And he has a long-term boyfriend and wants out of the life, but there's no other snipers in this agency, so he is the only one that they can rely on, so they will not let him go. So it's his and his boyfriend's story, but this was definitely a fun manhwa that I enjoyed a lot. Next, I read another Kindle Unlimited Christmas novella, and that's Santa's Coming. This follows a single mom who hasn't been out since she's had her baby, and her friends finally get her out and to a bar. Well, at this bar, there's someone dressed up as Santa sitting there taking photos, having a good time with people, and they dare her to like go straddle his lap and take a photo, like a sexy photo. And so she walks up to him and does it, and he's like, yeah, you can sit on my lap like that. We can take this photo. And they kind of like hit it off, and he wants to see her more. It's a very short novella. Like, it was only 70-ish pages, so it was just a very fun, quick time read. I gave this one 3 stars. I just had a fun time with it. Didn't take it too serious. Could recommend if you're looking for a fun Christmas novella. Next I read Fire in His Fingertips Volume 5. This is a very spicy slice of life manga that I really enjoy. It's about a girl whose apartment complex was on fire, and when she was trying to exit the apartment, she couldn't get out. She got trapped in her apartment, and the fire department came to rescue her, and the person that rescued her happened to be one of her like childhood friends, and he offers her to stay at his place while she gets back up and running. The apartment gets refurbished and rebuilt, and just helps give her a place to stay because she's got nothing. Like, her apartment burned down. So being in close quarters, forced proximity, you know, feelings tend to arise. And he's a firefighter, right? He's gorgeous. He's hot. She can't help but look at him a certain way. And she's beautiful too, so he's also interested in her. And it's just their romance, and it is just a fun, spicy time. Next, I read one that I was so sad about, and that is Heartless Heathens by Santana Knox. I picked this up because Arcane and Mystic Book Box are doing a special edition of this for a Polycon, and I wanted to know if I should get it. Because I read some, like, tropes for it, and I was like, God, this sounds like something I would love. And I DNF'd it, like, 200 pages in, but then I really wanted to continue because I was like, well, maybe I could just end up liking it. So I continued, and I still hated it. I gave this book 2 stars. Then, to come off of a 2-star read, I had a 5-star read. And it was also because I wanted to read this book before the pre-order closed for a Polycon, and that was A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. I picked this up actually at a Polycon this year. It was a special edition she did with Bookish Signs, which is like an indie sprayed edges shop. And I have read from Karina Halley and really enjoyed her in the past, so I really wanted to get this one and support her at a Polycon. But now Arcane is doing special editions of this in book 2. So I had to know if I needed to buy it. So I picked this one up, and I read this one so quickly. I absolutely adored this with my whole heart. It is a Little Mermaid retelling. It is very heavy in the story of Little Mermaid, where she makes a deal with the sea witch to gain feet so that she can go fall in love with the prince on land. Except it turns dark because the deal was not worth it, and the prince was not a good guy. And she ends up on a boat. They're traveling somewhere with her and her prince, and pirates invade and take her and her prince captive, and she ends up kind of enjoying our pirate captain, Ramsey. I had a really fun time with this, really loved it, I highly recommend it. Next, I read Dark Fever by Karen Marie Moaning. I had such a fun time with this one. I gave this one 4 stars. This follows Mac, whose sister has just been murdered in Dublin while studying abroad. And no one is doing anything to figure out what happened to her sister. The police reach a dead end. It becomes a cold case. They are not putting any manpower to finding out what happened to her. And her parents are just staying at home and mourning there. Not at the police door, knocking on it in Dublin. So Mac takes it upon herself to go to Dublin to find her sister's killer and what happened to her. And while she's there, she realizes that she might not be human. In fact, she's a Sheedseer, which are people that can see the Fae. And it is a kind of person that is sought after to kill. So she has to watch her back and figure out what's going on and what was her sister involved in over here. Next, I read twice. I read it 2 times in a row. Gifted to His Dad. This is by Jay Wilder. This was a Christmas novella about a guy that brings his girlfriend to a cabin to meet his stepdad, who is like his father figure. Someone he looks up to and admires, someone who took him under his wing when his mom abandoned him at 19 and up and left after she married him. And it is about him bringing his girlfriend home to meet the stepdad, to integrate the stepdad into the relationship. Like, this has been their plan whenever they want to live a life where they share a woman together and never have to worry about losing each other to separate women, essentially. I had such a fun time with this. It is a happy, fun time. It's a little insta-lovey on the stepdad's part, but it's a novella. I kind of expect that with novellas, so it didn't bother me nearly as much as it normally would. But I absolutely had the best time with this, and this will also be added to my reread around Christmas time list for next year. Then I picked up Lights Out by Novessa Allen. I have been seeing this book everywhere, and I haven't been in my dark romance era, so I had been putting it off because I wanted to give it its best shot, because everyone's been loving this book and ranting and raving about it. So I knew I wanted to pick it up, but when I was in the mood, and after reading The Disappointment of Heartless Heathen, I was kind of back in that mood again, so I decided to go pick it up. This is not on KU, which is so sad. And it was like sold out on Amazon, so I had to go buy it at Barnes & Noble, which, no problem. I ran to Barnes & Noble the day before Thanksgiving, picked it up, and then read this on the day of Thanksgiving. But this follows a trauma nurse, Allie, who has a guilty pleasure of watching a masked man who films thirst trap videos on Instagram and like social media. She follows him, watches all his videos, comments things like break into my house and surprise me, things like that. And the guy who's behind the mask is her ex-hookup roommate, Josh. Josh is our masked man, and he is obsessed with Allie. And once he realizes that she's been commenting on his videos, he starts stalking her. And he breaks into her house and films one of his videos in her house while she's at work. She watches the video at work and is like, hey, I have that comforter. Hey, that kind of looks like my dresser. Doesn't think anything of it, gets back home, and he leaves his calling card of his mask on her bed. It is I really enjoyed this book. It definitely is darker. It's definitely more dubious consent. But I had a really fun time with this. Think like Butcher and Blackbird, kind of along those lines. But Josh is like a cinnamon roll. So, I had a fun time with this one. Highly recommend it. I gave it like a 4.5. Alright, we're down to our last two. Next I read Sacked and Slayed. This was another Kindle Unlimited novella that I picked up, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but I don't know what I read. This book has all the triggers. This girl, picture Zooey Deschanel in Elf, being a cute little elf, working at a mall for the picture section where people come to take pictures with Santa. And she was working in this section, and she has a stalker that sends little girls up to her with notes that says, hey, quit bending over, people can see underneath your skirt. And she avoids those notes and doesn't look at them until after work. And the person looking up her skirt ends up dead. This was unhinged, but I had a really fun time with it. I don't even know how else to describe it to you, but definitely read the trigger warnings. Research, read with care is all I can say. But I had a fun time with it. I would only recommend it to certain people, not everybody. And lastly, for the month of November, I read The Christmas Omega. This is another Kindle Unlimited Christmas romance that I picked up that is a non-shifter Omega-verse. This follows Gracie, who, when identified as an Omega, her parents kind of didn't agree with that and how she was choosing to live her life. They felt that she needed to be like a Susie homemaker, and she's off at college trying to get a degree to better her life and get a good job in the future. And they don't agree with that. So when Christmas comes around, she's talking to her parents. They said, you're not coming home for Christmas. We don't want you here. So she gets stuck on campus for Christmas, celebrating with all the other students that are staying back for Christmas for whatever reasons. And in walks Ethan, an alpha that she goes to school with, who she hates, or thinks she hates, because she thinks he hates her. But spoiler alert, he doesn't hate her. In fact, he wants to date her. When she goes into heat during the Christmas break, he helps her through this and lets her know like he is serious about her and would like to date her. I feel like this was such a good entry level Omegaverse story. So if you're like wanting to dip your toes in without being like full force into it, I highly recommend this. I feel like their relationships were really well developed for being such a short story, and the smut didn't hit until like the 65-70%, which I feel like really helped develop their characters and them as a romantic pairing. So I do highly recommend this. I think I gave it 4 stars. All right, that is my November wrap up. 32 books was a lot. I still want to hit 300 books for December, so I still need to read 28 books this month. So we will see how that goes. But if you made it this far and just wanted to leave me an emoji to say you were here, leave me a mask emoji for lights out, and let me know down below in the comments if you've read any of these or if I've added them to your TBR. And if you could give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are. Until next time, guys. Bye!